Hi, it's Cara and welcome to my April wrap-up. It is technically the final day in April, but I'm not going to finish another book tonight, so I'm just going to film this video quickly now. So I read, what did I come up with? I read 19 things in the month of April. I did finish every single OWL's prompt, and as I go through each of these things, I will tell you which OWL's prompt they were for if they were an OWL read, which I'm very proud of. I didn't know if it would happen, but it did. I'm very happy. And I read some extra stuff. I am also partway through 3 books, but I'll be mentioning them in my May wrap-up, so I'll tell you about them then. So the first book I read in the month of April, I should say listened to, was Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I think a large thing to do with that was the narration. It's a full cast audiobook, but it is not the kind of book that lends itself to a full cast, in my opinion. The author narrates the narrator components, and then each of the authors voices their own dialogue, or each of the own characters voices their own dialogue, and it just was very stop-starty, and it's something you really had to get used to, and it was really jarring for the first maybe 100 or so pages of this like 400-page book. The plot and character-wise, I enjoyed. I had read this before a long time ago, like when I was a child. And I liked Lyra then and I liked Lyra now, but I totally did not remember the ending. So the plot definitely took me by surprise again, I guess. So that was enjoyable about this. But yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it. I am continuing with the series, but I don't have super high hopes to like love any of them. I just want to kind of complete this thing that's been like bugging me since I was a child that I never finished the series. Then I read City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I actually only read the final quarter of this. If you've been keeping up with my wrap-ups, I've been reading a quarter a month for this first 4 months, and I'm going to move on to City of Ashes next month. I didn't mention that in my TBR when I just filmed it, actually. So I've been annotating this throughout. And I'm going to be doing a flick through of my annotations for you, which could be a really boring video, but we'll see. Because for this one at least, it was mainly just the jokes. Because not that much emotionally moments except right at the end really happen. Most of the bits that I highlighted were jokes. But I did put little comments in the margins and stuff. So we'll flick through that at some point in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that video. But yeah, finally finished this. I didn't rate it because it's like my 5th time reading it. I enjoy it, but I don't think it's the best thing ever. The next thing I finished, because this is where I was starting to read a bit of everything at once, so these were physical reads, was Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. This was for Hair of Magical Creatures. Obviously it has this fox mask on the cover. I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it a 4 stars, and I'm excited to read the sequel. Just a bit cautious about going into it, because there are some things about the way it's told that could be downers. Like, it's dual first person narration with not a clear indicator, except it does go just like one chapter back and forth. But this follows, what are our characters' names? Again, I've forgotten. Yumeko, who's a kitsune, and she wants to, or needs to, save this piece of this scroll as prophecy and stuff. And we also follow Tetsumi, who's like a shadow samurai, like a dark samurai, and he is after this thing she's keeping protected, but they're kind of going to go on a mission together. The ending was really intense. It was a little bit innocent and sweet. It read like an anime, so kind of like episodic throughout this book. But yeah, the ending really blew it out of the water in my opinion, and I'm really excited to see where book 2 goes. It's coming out real soon, I think in June. I'm really excited for it. I really enjoyed this. Then I read Once in Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. This was for Arithmancy, which was a book by more than one author. This is an Arthurian retelling in space, and I really enjoyed it. Again, I think I gave it, yes, 4 stars. I think there were some things it could have improved on, and in particular that was more about the hitting the emotional highs and lows. I felt them because I cared about the characters, not because it was written for me to feel them, if that makes sense. And I think I could have felt them a lot more, but I really enjoyed the characters. I thought it was a really fun adventure. It's super diverse, super queer, great, and obviously Arthur is a woman, and that all of the components were all there to be amazing. I think it just missed in the writing and the writing style. Some of the peaks and troughs, like the real emotional high and low points. I'm definitely going to pick up book 2 though, because I really want to know what happens. Then I read Arisha and the End of Time, and this was for Ancient Runes, which was a retelling. What did I give this? Again, I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was fun and enjoyable. I really liked the characters. There was something that I struggled with though. I can't even remember. I did fly through it. It went by so fast, which I really enjoyed. I was really happy with that. I think I could have put a little more explanation into the mythology maybe, but it was really fun and the humor was funny and I just had a good time reading it. I think it just wasn't quite 5-star material, if that makes sense, but it was a good time. I really liked it. And I definitely want to pick up book 2. Hopefully from my library. Hopefully my library will get it in. Then I finished listening to If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This was for Charms, which is to read an adult work. And I gave this a 4.5 stars. It was real close to a 5-star. I thought the characters were really interesting. A lot was going on. The audiobook was really good. It did all the performance aspects really well, which I think I might not have got fully from the book, like the physical read. I think it just wasn't quite perfect. I'm not sure why now in hindsight, because I did really enjoy it. I think there might have just been a few minor problems for me with plot and pacing. A lot of the mystery and action happened right at the end. I did expect it to be more dark and mysterious from the start. But the ending really tore at my heartstrings, so choice. Then I finished Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. I gave this a 3.5. Yeah. This is the first in the Spellslinger series, which is Sebastian de Castell's young adult series. I had pros and cons for this. It took me a while to read. Con. The main character has some really iffy thoughts, particularly regarding women and physical diversity. Like, he's a bit fat phobic. Though he is kind of like pushed to get a little better. I read this for Transfiguration because it has sprayed edges. Yeah, Kellen was a bit awful and it was in his point of view, which did not help. But the plot itself and things that were going on, I enjoyed. So I don't know, I think I'll pick up book 2. I do need to add it to my TBR, to like my to buy list. Next time I'm in store, if I see book 2, I'll pick it up. But yeah, hopefully Kellen gets better across the series because he really grated on me in this one. Not in his dialogue, but in his voice or anything. He was quite funny, but there were things he would say that I was like, whoa buddy, check your privilege kind of thing. So I think he is kind of pushed to check his privilege a little, but I don't know if it went far enough for me. So it was a 3.5 stars. Then I read Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This was another 4.5 for me. It just didn't quite hit the 5-star mark, though I did really, really enjoy it. This is an Alec and Magnus spin-off series set during City of Fallen Angels, and I had a great time. The romp through here was so fun. The ending was a plot twist that really, I'm excited to see where it continues in this trilogy. did feel incredibly cock-blocked throughout the whole book until right at the very end, and I was not disappointed, but just, I think I've read too much smart fan fiction that I was just like, oh, was that it? But I guess for a not romance book, it's fine. But it was kind of romancy. Like, I'm glad it was, because it was really sweet. These are my favorite characters. And it was such a good, fun time. I did absolutely fly through this. I read this one for Defense Against the Dark Arts, a title starting with R. Then I read a couple of audiobooks. So the first one was Red Clocks by Lenny Zumas. I gave this one a 5 stars. It was really good. It's, I read it for the Divination Challenge, a book set in the future, and it's set in kind of a near future where abortion is illegal, IVF is illegal, because fetuses have, from the moment of conception, have right to person and property. So you can't do IVF because what if you drop the petri dish on your way to the host? That's murder. So no one does IVF, no one gets abortions in the US. Canada's trying to stay out of the scenario, so their border control's really strict. And we follow this small town around Massachusetts, I think, and following 5 perspectives with differing concerns regarding this. So we follow a young girl who falls pregnant and wants an abortion, a young woman who is like, would be the kind of woman that would get IVF, but she's a single mother or wanting to be a single mother, and they're trying to put in a every child needs 2 policy that would mean that she can't even adopt, and she's desperate to have a child, so she's trying to find a way to get a child, and they really can only do like insemination, like turkey basting. Then we have a mother who's dealing with some postnatal depression. Her relationship with her husband is not good. We follow, it might just be, there's the woman who's trying to get pregnant is writing a biography of an Icelandic explorer. So I think she's technically a perspective. And the other one is a like healer woman in town who is providing abortions, and she goes on trial in a bit of a witch hunt. So that's kind of our 5 perspectives, and we're all looking at different ways that this law affects this town, and it was really fascinating. It was kind of intentionally off-putting, which definitely like made me raise my eyebrows, but I think that was 100% the point. It was very interesting to read and very thought-provoking, so that's why I gave it 5 stars. It was really well written as well. Then after that, to have a bit of a break, I listened to Exit Strategy by Martha Wells. This is the 4th Murderbot novella, final one I think. Again, I listened to this on audiobook via Scribd. Murderbot, I love him. He's so good. He's just wholesome and fun, and this was the final installment as we kind of figure out some of the longer term plots and everything falls into place, and it was a great time. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then we have another 5-star book, and this was another Owls read. This was for astronomy, star in the title. I read The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is the first in a duology of lady astronauts. So we follow, her name's Elma, and it's set in the 50s. There was a meteorite that took out Washington DC and heaps of the US, and so it's going to wipe out the world like dinosaurs. So it's an accelerated space race to get a colony in space so they can survive this like meteor event. And so it's dealing a lot with women's suffrage kind of in this era, and Elma's struggle to go to space, because she was a WASP pilot in the war and she knows how to fly things, but the men kind of disregard women in this like post-war era. So This was amazing. I loved it. It was really nuanced and diverse and really thoughtfully considered both scientifically and emotionally, and I loved it. I did get it out from the library, but I've ordered myself a copy as well as the sequel because I loved this. Then I read The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. This is one of my most anticipated reads of the year, especially debuts, like one of my most anticipated debuts. I ended up giving this a 4.5 stars. I thought it was really amazing. It's like a paranormal kind of story, and we follow these kids in this small town, and they're all founders' children or like descendants. They'll have some powers to defeat this beast in the town or keep it at bay, and it's so mysterious and dark and a little bit gory, and it's really good. Oh, my children, oh, loved it. Read this, it's so good. And it's also so pretty. This was for herbology. Read a book with a plant on the cover because it's got all these trees. Then I read Firestar by Krista Lacey, which was for History of Magic, a book published over 10 years ago. This is the third book in the Last Dragon Chronicles. Things definitely took a turn in the series for this installment. I did find the first, like, this much pretty slow, and then the very end was super fast, which I'm not a huge fan of. I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars, or no, yeah, a 3.5. It was a good time, and I'm definitely keen on continuing, especially considering the ending and where it goes from here, according to the synopsis of the next book. But I don't think it was my favourite installment. I don't think. Then I finished The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, which I also gave 5 stars. I absolutely adored this so much. It was gory and hard and complicated and messy, but it was amazing. We follow Alex, whose older sister was raped and murdered, and she has this like internal capacity for violence. So she trains herself and goes and kills her sister's killer who got away with it. And she considers herself like the opposite of a sociopath because it's the fact that she has so much empathy for these people who horrific things happen to that causes her to like commit these violent acts. But yeah, she's killed a guy, she might kill again. But it's really more like a contemporary slice of life with her trying to form connections in school, and really find something to believe in, because to herself she's just like a killer of particularly shit men, and she's got to kind of find something to live for, I guess. I don't know, it was amazing. I just loved it so much. It was so good. I read this for Muggle Studies to read a contemporary. Then we have A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, which I gave 4.5 stars. This is a sci-fi sequel to A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, following Pepper and Lovelace. I enjoyed this. I thought it was a bit slow. All of these are slow. They're really like contemplative, I guess, but I really enjoyed my time reading it. It's just I felt like it went for a long time, if that makes sense. But I did go through it pretty quickly in reality. It was really sweet and gentle and careful, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were really nuanced and complex, but super interesting, and I just cared about them so much. This series is amazing, guys. I still have yet to read book 3. Some people don't like book 3. We'll see what I think next month, so keep an eye out for my May wrap up. Then I read another book I loved. This is Descendant of the Crane by Joan Hay. I gave this a 4.75 stars. It was so close to a 5-star, but something was just missing from it. I'm not even sure what. The only thing I can think of is this is a Chinese-inspired fantasy which was marketed as a standalone, but I think that was a publisher's decision, not the author's decision. Really, I think this is part of a trilogy or a series, and it reads that way, especially the closer you get to the end when you realize nothing's gonna get resolved. Or some things are, but not enough. It's 100% a series, but I feel like the publishers, she had a lot of trouble getting published initially, I believe, which is nuts considering how beautiful this book is. But I have a feeling they might not have approved her for sequels, So they marketed it as a standalone, same as Ember in the Ashes. Everyone remembers that debacle. Obviously not a standalone, but when publishers don't insist on marketing a book as a standalone because they haven't signed on the next books, I just roll my eyes. You should just sign it on, or don't even sign it on, but say it's a first book in a series that will have the potential to get more books if it sells well. You can say that, be honest with me, don't just call it a standalone because you haven't bought the next books. I can go on a rant for days, but the actual content of this, characters, gorgeous. Plot, amazing. Plot twist. This has been described as Chinese Game of Thrones. 100%. The plot twists were nuts like Game of Thrones. Zigzaggy. Amazing. Ending. Super solid. I buddy read this with April from Aprilius Maximus. We both loved it. Both of us thought it was just under 5 stars. But I loved it so much. I would totally recommend it. I waited a while for my copy to arrive, but I'm so glad I did because... Actually, no, it arrived a little earlier than what I thought. It was another one that I waited for ages for. But yeah, this was beautiful. I would 100% recommend it. It's been selling really well. Publishers, what are you doing? Just support it. It's amazing. Then I listened on audiobook to The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. I hadn't read this yet, but I really needed to, and I was a bit scared because it had very polarizing opinions on it. People either loved it or hated it, and I was scared I was going to be in the hate camp, but I'm in the it was good camp. I liked the characters and the plot. I didn't have a lot of problems with the characters, which some people did. I really actually related to Felicity. I think I was that girl when I was younger, so it was really relatable. The kind of pompous, considers themselves better than other girls because they're smart and lonery, but really it's just craving attention from other people. I related to that a lot, and the only element that I didn't like was the fantasy element that was introduced about halfway through. I kind of wish this was a stricter historical novel. That kind of has just why though? Why? But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the plot right to the end, but I was just this is an element that you could have done differently and kept the fantasy stuff out of it. It just felt out of place. So I gave this a 3.75 stars. Then I listened to Not Your Sidekick by C.B. Lee. This is a middle grade young adult superhero novel following our main character Jess, who's Vietnamese Chinese, half Vietnamese, half Chinese, I believe, and her whole family are superheroes, but she doesn't have any superpowers, so she gets an internship at this robotics company, and she's forming a cute little relationship with one of the girls that works there. It's very diverse, both racially and queer stuff. It's a female-female romance. One of Jess's best friends is a trans man. It was really fun. I liked the narration. I'm definitely going to listen to book 2 on audiobook. This is an Interlude Press novel, so I'm tempted to order a physical copy to go on my Interlude Press shelf anyway. If you don't know, I have in the past collected Interlude Press books, but I'm really behind, so this is definitely one. I think when I make my next order from them, I will add this on. I really enjoyed it, so I would definitely recommend this series. So the characters are late teens, but it maybe reads a little younger, so if you're 13 to 15 age group, it's totally good for that. And the final book I finished in the month of April last night was Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I think it just, I should have said Not Your Sidekick got 3.5. I enjoyed it. It was good. I think it lost a star because it just didn't quite go all the way. It promised me blood and gore and guts, and that was really good in the last third. But the first bit, not quite all the way there. Though, the angsty romance, I am living for. It was amazing. It was so good. Bow to the master. Yes. Amazing. I can't wait for book 2 because of things that happened at the end. Also, I've heard book 2 is like the last third, the whole way through, so.
What do you want, Kat?
She's just like tapping my foot. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I loved it so much. This cover and pages are gorgeous. Loved it. She's still bothering me, but this was so good. Definitely go out and read it. I know it's been in a couple of book boxes. It's great. 4.5 stars. So those are all the books I read in the month of April. This stack were all for the owls. And I did complete every owl. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below your thoughts on any of these. I'd love to chat about them. And otherwise, I will see you soon in another video. Bye!